As I sit here and record this video, there is no better opportunity in the Denver metro for home buyers than with new builds. New construction, it's not for everybody and it's not in every area, but the process of buying a new home as opposed to an existing home is a bit different. And for that reason, when the market's slower, you, the buyer, can get some pretty sweet deals from the home builder. I mentioned this in a recent market update that these builders locally are offering insane concessions for home buyers because they have all of this inventory they're trying to move and they want to move it. So they'd rather give you a sweet deal on it, especially in terms of financing, than keep holding on to this asset that's just costing them money and not doing anything. Their job is to build and sell homes, and when they're not selling homes, that's a problem. So I'll link to that video in the description, and if you want to go check that out, it's all there for you. But right now, I want to tell you about the main mistakes to avoid if you're buying a new construction home. There's 5 main things you're going to want to avoid so as to maximize your investment and not put yourself in a world of financial pain, because that can happen. And at the end, I'm going to give you one kind of hack that could just be the difference between a long, arduous, drawn-out process and a simple, really sweet deal. So mistake number 1 to avoid when buying a new home is not using a real estate agent to represent you as the buyer. And I know I can hear the comments now. "Oh, Sam, you're a real estate agent, so you just wanted people to use you." Yes, that is true. It's a conflict of interest for you to tell people to work with a real estate agent. Sure, fine. You just want to get paid. Absolutely true. However, all of these things can be true, and what I'm about to tell you next can be true as well, because I'm trying to get you to avoid an enormous conflict of interest that could cost you tens of thousands of dollars or more. So here's the deal. When you work with a home builder, which is who's on the other side of the transaction in a new construction deal, right? They build the home. They are the home builder. There will be a real estate agent on staff that is going to be representing the home builder. A lot of the time, if a buyer just walks into a home builder's office, their showroom, their model home, whatever, that real estate agent will greet them, and that real estate agent can guide them through the entire process from start to finish. You do not need to be represented by a buyer's agent in this process. You can do it all without one. However, as I said, that agent works for the home builder, meaning they represent the interests of the builder, meaning they do not represent your interests. Are they going to screw you over? Are they going to do anything shady? I don't know. Probably not. Could happen. But when we sign an agreement to work with a party in a real estate transaction, that agreement binds us to a fiduciary duty for that party. Meaning, when I represent you, it is my ethical and legal duty to do at all times what is in your best interest in the transaction, no one else's. So an agent who is working for a builder has legal and ethical duty to do what is in that builder's best interest. But you don't need a real estate agent representing you in any sort of real estate transaction, a normal buy side or a normal sell side. You can do a for sale by owner. You can also represent yourself in a criminal defense trial if you somehow find yourself there. You can do anything you want in this life. That doesn't mean it's a good idea. When you're represented by a buyer's agent, that agent will be your advocate, and that agent will work with the builder's agent, who is the builder's advocate, and together they will hammer out the best deal for their parties. And the other thing is, if I'm representing you as a buyer's agent, I'm being paid by the seller, the builder, not you. You pay not one dime more. In fact, you're probably going to pay less, because being represented by an agent means an expert in the field knowing where there are opportunities for negotiation and where there aren't. Meaning, at least if you're working with a good agent, you're going to get the best deal and you're going to get the best concessions. And pro tip, you want your agent to be there the first time you visit the home, the first time you visit that builder's office, the first time you make contact with anybody regarding this new home purchase. Because, for reasons I explained, and that should now be obvious, the builder would rather not have you represented by a buyer's agent. It's just the truth. It's going to save them money, and it's going to save them the hassle of having to work with annoying old me. So you want to make it known that you are represented from square one. It will have no bearing on their willingness to work with you because, number 1, that's illegal, and number 2, they want to sell these houses all the same. Okay, soapbox done. Number 2 mistake to avoid, and that's assuming there's no room for negotiation. So a lot of the time when it comes to buying new, a builder will basically say, hey, the price is the price. And it differs for whatever reason a little bit from the resale market. If you're buying a home that's listed on the MLS, something on Zillow that another person is selling. We all know in that case, assuming certain factors are present, there could be room for negotiation. Well, that's the case when working with a builder as well. Now, if there's a huge wait list and homes are pre-sold and they're sold out and everybody's waiting for the next batch to be released, is there going to be an opportunity to negotiate on price? Probably not. But in the market dynamics we have many places right now, homes are sitting, lots are sitting, they have pre-built homes ready to go that no one's buying. If homes have been built and just sitting there for 2, 3, 6 months, more than that, the longer they're on the market, the more option for negotiation there is. In this case, the builder will likely present you, hey, here's what we're gonna do. Here's the incentive we're gonna get you, and they're gonna give you something out of the gate. If they're offering you an incentive right away, chances are that's not the best incentive you can get. There may be more in terms of interest rate buy down, in terms of seller concessions, or in terms of money off the house. Oftentimes builders, even in these situations, aren't gonna reduce purchase prices as much as you'd find in some other situations because it's less emotional for them. It's a numbers game, right? They can only go so low on the house because they still have to make a profit. So don't assume there's a ton of room for negotiation, but do read the situation. And if it's not new to the market and there's not a wait list, chances are you can negotiate somewhat. Number 3 mistake is not protecting your deposit. This is probably the biggest mistake people make, especially when they're not represented by a real estate agent because they're just not used to reading these contracts. There's a whole bunch of different dates and deadlines in a real estate contract, and most builders will actually use their own contract. So everything will vary a little bit from builder to builder. But one thing that's going to be nearly universal across all these deals is there's going to be what we call in the business in resale earnest money, and a lot of builders call a deposit. Basically a check that you're going to write at the time of signing the contract or shortly thereafter, that money is then going to be held in escrow and then applied to your closing costs at closing. If for some reason something goes wrong and you terminate in a timely fashion, you get that money back. But the question becomes, what is a timely fashion? It will always be spelled out in that contract, but make sure you are reading that contract thoroughly to determine the time period you have to terminate and still get that deposit back. Hopefully you won't need to. Hopefully you're moving forward and closing on this home, but it's going to differ by builder, and we all know things come up. So if that deposit goes non-refundable immediately, that's going to be a different decision than with some home builders that I've worked with. That deposit is refundable almost all the way up towards closing. Just make sure you know when that happens and you understand your rights per the contract. Number 4 mistake to avoid, not having an inspection. I know, inspection aren't those for old houses. No, those are for any house you're considering buying. This is going to be probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, financial transaction of your lifetime. And even new homes have problems. You would be surprised at the things inspectors find where builders screwed up or just cut corners. And so it makes sense to spend the $700-800 to protect your enormous investment that's going to be locked in over a 30-year loan. Best case scenario, the inspector says, geez, everything looks great. And you have the peace of mind of knowing you're buying a tremendous asset. But chances are they're going to find something, and this is another opportunity for negotiation. I don't care if the home was built yesterday, you still want to get it inspected by an impartial third party. And the 5th mistake to avoid is not expecting delays. Depending on the circumstance and the builder, every build timeline is going to be different. Some homes are ready to move in, but a lot of the time when you're working with a new home builder, it's something that's yet to be built. That's one of the benefits of working with a new construction is you get to pick out and design how the house actually looks. You get to choose the floor plan. You get to pick the finishes. It's a lot more control than buying a house that's already there. But with construction comes construction timelines, and they are going to give you the theoretical timeline. But if you know anything about large construction projects, you know that it is not out of the ordinary for them to be delayed. And for many reasons, including supply chain and labor shortages, over the past few years, delays have become more and more common, to the point where now I just expect them. So if you're up against a tight moving deadline, the house is going to be done now, and we want to move in now, it may be better to make your schedule a little more flexible, if at all possible. Hope for the best, expect large delays. Okay, that's it for things to avoid, at least for this video, but I wanted to tell you about that little hack that I have that can really take this process from good to great. And this is basically doing the opposite of what I talked about in the last point about this construction timeline and picking out finishes and having this long 18-month or whatever it is lead up. The hack is to consider if the builder has it a move-in ready home. This is a home that has already been built. It could have been a model home. It could have been built for someone else who then terminated the contract for whatever reason. But this is a house that has been built that is just now waiting for someone to come in and become the owner. Now, this situation might not be right for everybody. If you definitely want to make sure you pick out the countertops, and this isn't going to be you, but the reason I say to consider it is what you give up in control of the home, you gain in terms of timeline and in terms of builder willingness to negotiate. Think about it. Timeline gets compressed. There's no construction delays because the house is ready to move in. And by the time there's a move-in ready home, the builder has more and more incentive to get it off their books. It is just sitting there costing them money, meaning chances are they'll be willing to give you an even sweeter deal than they would before. And the process can be a lot less stressful. It can more resemble a normal real estate contract to close process, where we're talking about 30 days versus a year or more of waiting for the construction process to be complete and hoping everything goes well. And if you look around now, most builders got move-in ready homes just sitting, waiting to be snatched up. And hey, if you're considering buying a luxury home, i.e. anything $1 million or more, I actually did a video on the things to consider in that process as well. Check it out here if you want. Otherwise, love you. See you soon.